came up for renewal, freeing the company from having to do repairs. And of course, they raised the prices of the home significantly more than what they were listed for if you opted to buy when they were still an independent park. Ours went up $5,000 from what we could have bought it for when we moved in, and they were still independent, but we had no choice other than to move after a single year of owning. So we took a risk and did a private lease to own just for what we owed on the home with another couple that had poor credit and got out within a year after the towing incident. The couple turned out to be great, paying on time, and eventually after a few years fixed their credit enough that they were able to refinance under their own names. So it all ultimately worked out in our favor, and we got out from under the ruthless, uncaring corporate monster. I currently live in a mobile home park, and they do the same shit to us. Like, I got a note saying they're raising our lot rent by $15 next year. Last year they raised it by $10. And because they just got a garbage company, they're raising that bill by $5. So essentially they're raising our whole lot rent by $20. And we live in Georgia, and I looked it up. Apparently there's no limit on how much you can raise the fucking rent. Which sucks, because I still don't make enough to even move any closer to my job. That is like the cheapest place in Georgia you can live. And it sucks. So I understand. They do that shit all the fucking time in mobile home parks, especially ours. Ours, like, you have to buy the trailer. My dad bought his for like $520 because it had a fucking hole in the roof and other issues with it. And then my dad had to bring that bitch up to their standard code and bullshit. So yeah. Corporations suck. Homestuck Stole My Soul is who our next story comes from, and this comes from r/petty revenge. Someone talked down to me, so I got her fired. She was from the HR department. Ooh, that's a rarity. This was back in 2019. I had worked at a call center for 2 years. I took phone calls, trained people, worked overtime. Sometimes they even just have me walk around and answer any of my coworkers' questions. They scored our calls, and I never received below a 90. Now for Amy. Amy had only been working for about a year. She instantly disliked me because I dressed a bit alternative. Professional, but alternative. I was on some new medication for my funky little brain, and it didn't react well. It made me more blunt. A customer was arguing with me, saying I was stupid for not giving them a promotion item that was not going on, so I told them flat out that I was right. She started screaming, so I said I'm not taking the abuse and hung up. Seemed reasonable at the time, right? If I was right there, wouldn't be a story, though. I got called in the day after next. They fired me for hanging up without a warning. Edit, my manager was included in all the meetings, and they talked to me before HR the day before. Also, a hang up without 3 warnings was an automatic fire. I told them I'm on new meds because I'm bipolar, so they couldn't fire me for that, but they needed paperwork proving I'm bipolar. Fair enough. Then comes 3 months of calling numbers, getting things sent out, only to have Amy tell me they didn't receive anything. When they had meetings, she would talk down to me, tell me being good at my job didn't matter because I was only still there because of my excuse with your meds. She even ignored 2 of my managers saying I deserved to stay because I was great at working. She kept on saying my paperwork was lost. Later, when we were all work from home, so I decided to move, and she found out telling me she had to approve it before I did so, and that she would approve it. I moved, and about 2 weeks later, she broke me. She had scheduled me for 3 12-hour days in a row, which I had said I cannot work those in a row. And at 2, she didn't schedule me directly. She went through some managers who didn't like me. I was told by one of my managers who did like me. Amy told me I needed to show up or there would be actions taken against me. I got online and started working. At lunch, I logged off and sent an email to everyone, saying that I had great managers and coworkers and it was a great job, but sadly I just couldn't stay because Amy was making my job rough. I named her in that email, then logged off and went to sleep. I got a call the next day from the head of HR begging me to come back, saying that Amy decided to leave for a different opportunity and said we could discuss a raise. I said thanks, but no, and never looked back. Never thought I'd share this, but after listening to r/videos for so long, I figured I should add my own. r/ is a great YouTuber. I listen to his videos all the time. He's wonderful. TLDR, HR lady was rude and condescending. I quit, blaming her as the reason. HR fired her and tried to rehire me. Yep, they will do that sometimes. They really, really will. It's kind of hilarious. Like, one of my coworkers, they got a job that pays better, like, by $2 whole. It pays $19 an hour versus the $16.50 she was making. And I think it came with a little bit extra because she was bilingual. And they tried getting her a different position here that was supposedly pay more. But it's whatever. And now they're trying to get my husband into another position, but they are trying to figure out a price to get him to actually do it. So yeah. We'll see how that goes. Our next story is also from r/Petty Revenge, and it's by Pertachi. My father keeps hanging up the phone while I'm still talking, so I decide not to call him back, and that's why his house lost electricity for a while. I just read a post about someone's dad who never hangs up the phone himself. My dad's the exact opposite, and it reminded me of an incident that happened a few weeks ago. My dad disconnects the calls once he's gotten what he wants out of it. No goodbye, no I'm hanging up now, or anything else. It drives me batshit crazy. I take care of the utilities for his house, i.e., I pay his electric and phone bills. A few months ago, it was time to pay the electric bill. But I was having bank issues and the payment wasn't going through. So I called him to let him know this issue and to ask if he would mind paying the bill himself this time, as it was the last day for the payment. I am not exaggerating when I had to call him 6 times just to get just this one point across because he kept hanging up thinking I was done speaking. I almost threw my phone at a wall. It was so frustrating. I think all he got from my call was, today's the last day to pay the bill, and he assumed that I was calling to tell him that I had paid it. I was so frustrated at that point that I didn't call back. If he doesn't want to listen to what I have to say, he may as well bear the consequences of it. 2 weeks later, the electricity connection to his house got disconnected. He called me up shouting about unpaid bills. I calmly told him that I had called him about it, and since he kept disconnecting the numerous calls I placed, I assumed he had handled it. Anyway, it's almost festival season in my country, and I'm so busy that I won't be able to sort out his issues for at least another 2 weeks. He's going to have to figure it out himself. Have fun taking multiple trips to the government-run electricity board office, Dad. Edit to clarify a few things and stop hateful DMs. My culture is Indian. Excuse me, cough. The festival season I spoke of is Diwali. I own a small business which is in high demand during Diwali. I'm probably pronouncing that wrong and I apologize. And I'm going to be working 10 plus hours a day for the next 14 days, weekends included. I am not off partying in music festivals as many of you seem to think. Honestly, when you said it's festival season, you're going to be really busy for the next 2 weeks, I presumed you were working in customer service industry, which it seems you are. I did not text him because he does not read his text messages. If he gets a text, he will call that person and then hang up on them too. It's true that 2 weeks is not enough time for anyone to cut off electricity, but my dad's connection was already on notice due to late payments for more than the year, and he already had the connection disconnected once. It's why I had taken over the payments since the past 3 months. I did not leave my dad with no electricity for 2 weeks because he did go to the office and electricity will be restored by tomorrow. But my dad being an asshole or people saying I need to go no contact with him and calling me a doormat, yes, the Indian culture demands a certain level of respect for your elders. And it is not but it is not all-encompassing. My respect for my dad stems from my generally good relationship with him. There's one or two things that he's really bad at, but that does not mean he's an entirely bad person. I showcased one of his bad qualities in this post, but he has numerous good qualities as well. I pay his bills because I want to, not because he needs me to, or he asked me for help. He's perfectly capable of it financially. No person is perfect, but I try not to make a habit of vilifying anyone for a few flaws, especially not my own dad, who is probably very proud to have me as his daughter. I will take him to visit a doctor in 2 weeks' time to check for neurological diseases like dementia. Thanks for the tip. I am not suicidal by any means. Please stop reporting me to Reddit Cares. Thank you. Yeah. So, I don't know much about the Indian culture other than, I'm white, and family means a lot to a lot of cultures, especially Indian and other communities. Family and respect for your elders, it's just a thing. And it's a very complex thing. It's not, as far as I'm concerned, it's very complex. I'm white and I live in America, so can't really talk about it. I do get it. Your dad, he has that habit of just hanging up the phone because he thinks, oh, you're done talking. It is a rude habit. I am glad, some people are just hey, have you checked dementia, maybe? I'm not sure if that's a sign of dementia. Who knows? But our last story today is gonna come from Pro Revenge. So, woo. Oh, my computer is dying because I forgot to charge it. It's fine, I got 30 minutes left. That's why the brightness went down suddenly. Our next story is by The 2By. Weird thing is, I could have sworn I charged this thing yesterday. I left behind a dead man's switch in the company workflow when I sensed I was about to be bullied into quitting. First of all, this story is a bit older, but I will keep stuff rather ambiguous at times just for my own safety. I don't know how much my company can find out. I hope I can put it into words so everyone can understand, especially as English is not my first language. Also, there will be a TLDR at the bottom. Also, there are some Google translations in this, so please be merciful. So, let's get started. I started working in logistics at a company that builds things. That was just as COVID was starting, actually. When I started, we were 5 people in the team, but one of the guys quit soon after. This is important because it was a very good insight into how my department operates when they don't need or want a certain someone around. They will not outright fire you, since then they have to pay you a severance, but instead they will bully you into quitting. I saw pretty much the whole package, excluding them from meetings and important events, putting them down in public, lecturing them, never noticing good work done, and always making sure everyone knows about work that is poorly done. Drowning someone in work and then berating them when they inevitably can't keep up. It was outright childish at times. I didn't register it at the time, but it was a really valuable lesson for later. I was put in charge of managing our overseas suppliers, among other things. About half of our material came from overseas, most of that from China. While it seemed like a big task for someone new, it wasn't done out of malice. Genuinely, everyone believed we were going to get a guy in China for the Chinese supplies, then I'd be left for the handful of others. It seemed fair. But we never got that guy for China, and I was left with all overseas suppliers. Another important thing is that just in this project, the company had decided to change the workflow for overseas suppliers. This is because due to COVID, the price of shipping containers had exploded. To explain it as simply as possible, previously the suppliers were responsible for filling our containers and bringing them to the harbor. We were responsible for picking them up from the harbor and bringing them to us. However, due to demands and many other things, sometimes we just needed 2 or 3 pallets of parts where a dozen or more could fit inside a container. So we were shipping a lot of air. The new workflow would have the suppliers bring the parts to an external warehouse, one in the US, one in China. Then we would load them into containers to get the containers as full as possible, and then bring them to the harbor and then into our plant. This way we needed to rent far fewer containers. This complicated things because it erased a direct contact from us to the suppliers, and there was no official method how we were going to keep in contact with suppliers. Excuse me, that was a burp. Tell them how many parts we need, how to package them, if there were any changes requested, etc. During that time, I was left mostly alone to deal with it, and I set up a system with Excel. It was mostly manual, rather simple, but it worked well. It worked so well that one of the suits even chatted with me about it for a bit, since he wanted to make it a standard in future projects. And also, this is very important, I was the only one who actually knew all our overseas suppliers and their contacts. Some of you might be able to tell where this story is going already. So during the entire time, nobody had actually bothered to ask me to explain to them how my system worked or where I kept track of all the supplier all the supplier contacts. All of this data was hidden on slide 800 of some Excel file I had saved in a folder titled Part Pictures, which was otherwise filled with pictures of parts. Now, moving forward, as COVID began dying down, the department, for whatever reason, decided they didn't need me anymore. I have theories, but nothing certain, so I will just leave it at that. I pretty much saw precisely the same thing go down as I had seen with that one guy who had left shortly after I started. All the bullying. I thought to myself at first that if I pulled through and kept doing a good job, and I believe I did a good job, they would eventually cool down, but they didn't. After 2 months of that, I said fuck it, and decided to just sit out and endure until the Christmas bonus we get every year, and then handed my notice. And also, I just delayed teaching anyone how my system worked until I was gone. And that is pretty much how it happened. Off topic. For my own future employment, I actually lucked out. One of the local suppliers I was managing had a really chill guy as a managing director. I gave him a call, explained I was about to be unemployed, asked if they needed staff. He then called me in for an interview. We talked about anime for an hour while his HR lady looked confused about what a Attack on Titan was, and he told me I can come in the moment I am done with my then current job. Back on topic. A month into working at my new job, I got a call from my old job. The department manager. To his credit, he was always a reasonable man. He told me in plain words that they had no idea where the fuck to even start with the Chinese suppliers. He then offered me my old job back with a very respectable pay increase. I explained that I already had a new job. 2 days later, I got another call where the same manager offered me many times my monthly salary just to come in for 1 week and instruct my old team in how my process functioned. Introduce them to all the contacts, etc. I told him I refused because of the way I had been treated by them when I worked there. He said that he understood and wished me luck at my new job and hung up. The reason I am writing the story now, this week I randomly got in touch with some of the people in the transport department from my old job. They mentioned that in the now 10 months since I have left, the logistics department racked up 8 figures losses due to wrong deliveries, over and under deliveries, outdated parts, some suppliers canceling their contracts and new suppliers needing to be sourced, etc. And all the blame for that fell on my old team. My new job is fine. It's not the best job, but I get to travel a lot and get nice bonuses for it. My boss isn't around much since he's married. I do sometimes regret not taking that offer for a week as an instructor. So yeah, hope you all enjoyed the read. TLDR, company put me in charge of managing overseas suppliers, unintentionally making me the only guy who knew the suppliers and knew the system I had created in exchange to exchange data with them. When my company started bullying me into quitting, I avoided instructing anyone from my team in how my system worked. leading to them asking me to come back after I quit and then raking up 8-figure losses after I refused to come back. And to me, that is just sweet, sweet, delicious revenge. Because, hey, play stupid games, win stupid prizes, 'tis a thing. It will always be a thing. And thank you all so much for being here, for listening, for watching. Go ahead and leave a comment or a like about what you would like me to read next. I would be very happy to see it. My computer it's got 40 minutes of battery remaining. And it's 4:30 and my husband doesn't get off until fucking 6. So yay. So thank you all for being here. You're all wonderful. Thank you all to my Patreon and Ko-fi supporters, Dymond and Micah. You're awesome. Stay safe. All that good jazz. So yeah. Bye-bye.